State prosecutors are set to file an arrest warrant for Choi Soon-sil today, charging her with meddling in state affairs and embezzlement. South Korea and the U.S. have agreed to strengthen creative, punitive measures against North Korea that will encompass international and independent sanctions and a fresh UN resolution. Plus, for the first time, South Korea's Coast Guard uses weapons to seize Chinese boats illegally fishing in its exclusive economic zone. These and more coming right up. Hello, it's Wednesday, November 2nd here in Seoul. Welcome to our newscast. I'm Hwang Ji-hye. Local prosecutors are set to file an arrest warrant today for Choi Soon-sil, the woman at the center of a massive political scandal in which she's accused of abusing her close ties with President Park Geun-hye. Prosecutors are focused on arranging evidence linking her to corruption allegations surrounding two cultural foundations, Mir and K-Sports. They're also set to bring in a former senior presidential secretary today. Kim Young-gil starts us off.
Seoul prosecutors said Tuesday they will likely request an arrest warrant for Choi Soon-sil, President Park Geun-hye's longtime friend, after putting her under emergency detention without a warrant the day before. Prosecutors reportedly believed there was a risk Choi could destroy evidence or flee. Under Korean law, a suspect can be held under emergency arrest without a warrant for up to 48 hours. Therefore, prosecutors must now file a request for a warrant within 48 hours, or the suspect must be released. Prosecutors will also summon former senior presidential secretary for policy coordination An Jong-bum on Wednesday afternoon. They've already placed a travel ban on An, who is suspected of colluding with Choi to raise money for two government-linked foundations. They raided 8 banks on Tuesday to secure information on financial transactions related to Choi, after securing several boxes of documents over the weekend from the presidential office and the homes of presidential aides. Prosecutors are investigating allegations that Choi, who does not hold an official government position, interfered in state affairs and accessed classified presidential office documents. Prosecutors are also grilling Choi on the allegation that she used her connections to the president to push corporations to make huge contributions to the two foundations, and that she embezzled some of the money for herself. Choi is also facing allegations that she used her political connections to get her daughter into Ewha Women's University, where she is alleged to have received preferential treatment. Choi is the daughter of President Park's late mentor, Chae Tae-min, the founder of a religious sect who died in 1994. Choi cultivated a relationship with President Park after her mother, First Lady Yoo Kyung-soo, was assassinated in 1974. Kim Young-gil, Arirang News.
And skating on thin political ice, the presidential office appears to have shifted its stance on the investigation into the scandal. It's now expressing greater willingness to cooperate, saying it has nothing to hide. Yet fresh allegations have emerged that suggest the president's close friend could have been allowed to go in and out of the top office at her leisure for years. Song Ji-sun has more.
The presidential office has become much more cooperative with the prosecutor's investigation, saying it will provide requested documents as long as they do not violate the security protocols of the presidential office. Just days ago, Chung Wha-dae rejected the prosecution's attempts to raid the presidential office and seize evidence. But it did hand over 7 boxes of documents after the president's chief aide stepped down, including Civil Affairs Senior Secretary Woo Byung-woo, who is widely suspected of having links with Choi Soon-sil. Meanwhile, more reports revealing Choi's privileged access to the top office have come out. Choi was reportedly able to come and go from Chung Wha-dae without proper screening or identification as a passenger in the car of her close aide who worked at the president's private office. President Park Geun-hye is staying at her office and is not attending any scheduled events outside, and the regular cabinet meeting and the presidential senior secretary's meetings were both held without her. In the meantime, the president's approval rating dipped into single digits for the first time since she took office. A monthly poll by Neil Shinmun logged an approval rating of 9.2% on the first day of November, plummeting from the October figure of 34.2%. Gallup survey stood at 14% last week after her public apology. 송지선, Arirang News.
And looking to resolve the scandal and calm the public outrage, Korea's opposition bloc is presenting a united front, agreeing to set up an independent council to investigate the scandal. The ruling Saenuri Party, however, is very much divided. Our Park Ji-won has the latest from the National Assembly.
Korea's opposition parties have decided to press ahead with efforts to seek an independent council investigation for the Choi Soon-sil case and called on President Park Geun-hye to cooperate. The decision was made at a joint meeting Tuesday morning between the floor leaders of the three opposition parties, the Democratic Party, the People's Party, and the Justice Party.
The three opposition parties will pursue an independent council investigation through the passage of a special law to reveal the truth about the scandal.
The opposition parties have also rejected the ruling party's proposal to form a coalition cabinet comprising both ruling and opposition party politicians and urged ruling Saenuri Party leaders to take responsibility for the situation.
The Saenuri Party has reportedly already recommended politicians who once served in the opposition as potential prime minister nominees. This is nonsense. The ruling party was planning to appoint a cabinet with their own choices, pretending it was a coalition.
If the Saenuri Party feels even the slightest responsibility, it should urge the president to make up her mind, and the party itself should also take responsibility for the situation.
The issue has divided the Saenuri Party. A group of first and second-term lawmakers and several lawmakers who aren't part of the party's pro-Park faction have urged party leaders to step down. They also say they agree with the opposition on the need for an independent council investigation on any terms.
Once again, we've reached the conclusion that the entire party leadership should take responsibility and resign.
5 of the party's presidential hopefuls, including former Seoul Mayor Oh Se-hoon and former party chair Kim Moo-sung, also called on the current leadership to step down to give the party a chance at a fresh start. The 5 spoke to reporters after a closed-door meeting Tuesday afternoon. The Saenuri leadership, however, is refusing the calls to resign. They say resolving the situation is the priority. The party is slated to hold a general meeting of all its lawmakers Wednesday. Park Ji-won, Arirang News.
In other news, South Korea and the United States have agreed on the need to think outside the box to rein in North Korea's nuclear ambitions. Seoul says the allies must create an atmosphere which leaves Pyongyang with no option but to abandon its nuclear arsenal. Kwon So-ah reports.
The top nuclear envoys from South Korea and the United States have agreed to use creative efforts in dealing with North Korea by means of a new UN Security Council resolution, independent sanctions, and pressure at the international level. The decision was made during the first official bilateral meeting between South Korea's Special Representative for Korean Peninsula Peace and Security Affairs Kim Hong-gyun and U.S. Special Representative for North Korea Policy Joseph Yoon, who took office earlier this month.
We must, together with the international community, continue to apply sanctions and pressure on North Korea to create an environment where Kim Jong-un has no other option but to choose the denuclearization process.
Washington's nuclear chief held similar talks with his Chinese counterpart Monday.
So I just came back from Beijing, also accompanying Mr. Blinken. And so I look forward to working closely with you to see how much progress we can make on bringing about denuclearization of North Korea.
China's foreign ministry commented on Monday's meeting, saying it hopes for all 6 party talks members to communicate with one another and solve North Korea's nuclear issues through negotiations. The ministry spokesperson said it's Beijing and all concerned parties' greatest common interest to realize the denuclearization of the Korean peninsula. While the U.S. and China have reportedly had difficulty in narrowing their differences regarding new sanctions on North Korea, Yoon expressed hope that a new UN Security Council resolution will be adopted soon. Speaking to reporters after Tuesday's meeting, he said good progress has been made at the UN and he is sure the new resolution will be a, quote, good deal. When asked about U.S.-China negotiations on sensitive issues such as the restriction of coal exports from the north, Yoon acknowledged that it's a big issue and added that an agreement is expected soon. South Korea's foreign ministry stressed that coordination between Seoul and Washington on North Korea should continue the way it is, regardless of the transition to a new U.S. government, adding its hope that visits between the two can be arranged once a new administration kicks in. Kwon So-ah, Arirang News.
Meanwhile, North Korea is reportedly gearing up to launch another intermediate-range ballistic missile within the next few days. Fox Business Network reported Tuesday local time that Pyongyang is preparing to conduct a test of its Musudan missile in the next 24 to 72 hours. The agency cited 2 U.S. officials with knowledge of the issue, but the Department of Defense declined to confirm the report. North Korea has conducted 8 missile tests this year, of which 7 have failed. The only successful launch happened in June. Along with the missile tests, North Korea also carried out 2 underground nuclear tests this year in January and September. For the first time, Korea's Coast Guard has used a crew-served automatic weapon to disperse Chinese boats illegally fishing in its waters. Officials say the so-called carrier task group fired nearly 700 rounds from a M60 machine gun on Tuesday evening as some 30 Chinese boats rushed at Coast Guard boats to retake 2 Chinese boats that had been captured in the West Sea. The Coast Guard says shots were fired toward the boats after repeated warning messages and shots in the air. The Chinese boats turned back and left the area an hour after the first shots were fired. No damage or injuries have been confirmed as the confrontation happened after dark. The 2 captured boats and 20 Chinese crewmen are expected to arrive in Incheon later today. Korea's exports, considered the main driver of the nation's economy, are on the slide again. This comes after a slight rebound at the end of summer that was the first in almost 2 years and comes on the heels of Samsung's smartphone recall fiasco. Kim Min-ji reports.
Korea's exports continued their downward streak in October. The Trade Ministry says outbound shipments dipped 3.2% on year to $41.9 billion. Exports had dipped for 19 straight months, turning around for the first time in August and then falling again in September. Imports also continued negative growth, falling 5.4% to $34.8 billion. With that, the trade surplus came to $7.2 billion, extending the country's surplus streak to a 57th straight month. The ministry attributed the slide in October exports to fewer working days and unexpected disruptions seen at the country's 2 major exporters, Samsung Electronics and Hyundai Motor.
These factors resulted in losses of over $2.1 billion, pulling down the overall growth rate in exports by 4.9 percentage points.
Last month, Samsung called an end to production and sales of its flagship phablet after reports that even replacement Note 7s were catching fire. Over at Hyundai Motor, strikes over the adoption of performance-based pay dragged down production by 140,000 cars this year. But some point out exports didn't fall as sharply as last month's 5.9% decline, due in part to improvements in other key export items, such as semiconductors, computers, and flat panel displays.
The negative factors have been concentrated in Korea's key sectors. While overall exports are still on track for recovery, it's important for the country to move to foster new areas of growth, as well as expand opportunities in markets that are faring better than others, such as India, Vietnam, and Iran.
For the remainder of the year, although the decline in exports is expected to slow, it will still likely be a tough road ahead due to weak growth in the global economy, as well as a possible rate hike in the U.S., which could offset the recovery momentum. Kim Min-ji, Arirang News.
Global credit rating agency Moody's is keeping Korea's sovereign rating at AA2, its third highest level. The agency also maintained Korea's credit rating outlook at stable, citing the country's relatively strong economy and fiscal health, and a strong position in dealing with uncertainties in the global economic and financial markets. That AA2 rating is equal to the AA of the other two main credit rating agencies, Fitch and S&P. Korea has maintained that rating for 10 straight months since Moody's upgraded it by one notch last December. In just over a week from now, we will know the next president of the United States. And as the race enters its final stretch, it seems Donald Trump is the candidate with the momentum. The Republican nominee has surged in the polls over the past week, erasing a 12-point deficit in the latest ABC News Washington Post national tracking poll. Conducted from October 27th to the 30th, the poll showed Trump leading Hillary Clinton by 1 point at 46% to 45%, with Libertarian candidate Gary Johnson and the Green Party's Jill Stein taking 3% and 2% respectively. It marks the first time Trump has led that survey since May. Clinton has been nosediving in the polls in the aftermath of FBI's bombshell revelation last Friday that it had reopened its criminal probe into Clinton's use of a private server when she was Secretary of State.
So we can repeat.
And that wraps it up for now. Thank you for watching. I'm Hwang Ji, and I'll be back in less than 2 hours for more news updates, so do stay tuned for that, and goodbye for now.